And on that note, it is a great day to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for being with us here today. It's a voice so nice you can hear it twice. Thanks so much. As you all know, this is a historic day in West Virginia University athletics and obviously for the West Virginia University women's basketball program. We thank you all for being here. As you take a gaze around, I've had the opportunity to see some very familiar faces, and those faces represent the history of West Virginia University women's basketball. I see Lisa Stolar, who assisted on the first dunk ever in a women's basketball game. I see Becky Winovich. I see Kate Bulger of the Bulger family. And that's just a smattering of the history and the proud tradition of WVU women's basketball. And this afternoon we are here to introduce our new head coach. Would you please welcome the athletic director of the Mountaineers, Shane Lyons.
Welcome. As Tony said, it's a great day to be a Mountaineer. Today I'm here to introduce to you our sixth head women's coach of women's basketball here at West Virginia University. But before I do that, I did not really have a chance to ever thank Mike Carey for the job that he did as our head coach for 21 years. Mike took over this, thank you. Mike took over this program when it was a very, very low part of its history. He built it into a very competitive national contender year in and year out, and ended up being the winningest coach in WVU women's basketball history. So I want to thank Mike for the job that he did and wish him the best in his retirement. So thank you, Mike. As we started this process, and Mike announced his retirement, as I said, we were going to do a national search, and we did a national search. It was really interesting to the foundation that was built here at West Virginia under women's basketball, the interest that we had. As an athletic director, I don't do anything different than others. Of course, we all have our short list, and we keep those short lists in our pockets. We add to that list, we subtract from that list as we go through the process. The thing that was very interesting in this process is I had my list. I'll introduce them here in a second, but Kelly Zinn, Matt Wells worked with me, more Matt Wells with the list. And when we officially started looking for those candidates, it became apparent that the candidates wanted to be part of West Virginia basketball. It was interesting that their representatives or their head coach contacted us. So each one of the candidates that we had an interest in, they also had an interest in us. And that was pretty special to talk about West Virginia basketball history. I see this program being able to go to new heights. One thing that we talked about with the candidates is what's your vision for this program? As athletic director, I talked about my vision for this program. And it was no doubt that this program can continue to build off the foundation that we have and go higher and higher. As they walked into this building, some of the candidates looked around and said, Shane Lyons likes banners. I like hardware. So that's what we're striving for. So throughout the search process, as I mentioned, Matt Wells, who's currently serving as sport administrators for women's basketball, and Kelly Zinn, who's serving as the SWA and Chief Operating Officer, I decided I wanted to keep this group small. So it was just the three of us that ended up doing the search, going through candidates, having conversations with those candidates as we went through that process. Unfortunately, he can't be here today, but President Gee, as he always is, he's the closer, right? So, when the candidates were here, they had the opportunity to meet with President Gee as we went through that process. So he told me that I probably scheduled this because he was out of town, and I would take all the credit for this. But no, President Gee's a huge supporter, not only of women's basketball, but all of our sport programs. And we really appreciate him as president and what he does for our university as a whole. But as we continued looking into the qualities and characteristics of the coaches, in very few times will ever waver from these characteristics and values. But we look for somebody with high character, somebody with previous head coaching experience, a proven winner with NCAA tournament experience, a program builder that will provide our student athletes with a great experience, a leader of young women who will provide our student athletes with a great experience overall, with an emphasis on academic and graduation success. As we continue through this process, a name that kept coming to the top was Dawn Plitzuweit. I will admit, it took me a long time to figure out how to say her last name. At first, I asked Matt Wells, how do you say her last name? He said, Coach P. So I'm like, that wasn't a whole lot of help. But I've learned to say Plitzuweit, and don't ask me to spell it all the time. Still working on that part. But Dawn's name kept coming to the top every time we looked at it. And unfortunately, but fortunately for us and fortunately for her, it slowed the process down because she continued to play in the NCAA tournament. And not that I wanted to, good problems, see the unfortunate missed shot to beat Michigan to go to the Elite Eight, but one way I was relieved because I was excited to get her here on campus, show her what we had to offer here at West Virginia. And now she's here. You look at Dawn's resume, 73% of overall games she has won, 72% of those Division I games. She led her teams to 4 NCAA tournaments at South Dakota and 8 overall as a head coach. She reached the Sweet 16 this year with wins over Ole Miss and Baylor. Had games, absolutely. Has been a head coach for 475 career games. She's had 5 20-win seasons in Division I and 9 overall, 14 winning seasons, 6 Coach of the Year awards, 6 regular season conference championships, 5 tournament championships, national reputation as a great tactician, program builder, and leader. And those are just a few of the things that we kept popping out when we talked to Dawn Plitzuweit. So we are excited to have her and her family here at West Virginia University. She's already assembled her staff, which she'll introduce to you later on. She's already learned how to say, "Let's go Mountaineers." And it's my honor and privilege to present to you the 6th women's basketball coach in West Virginia women's basketball history, the 2022 K. Yao National Coach of the Year, Dawn Plitzuweit. Make sure I do that right this time. We'll step up here.